Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mila, you're at my book nook, and today I have a general YA book recommendations video, but it's also like books for teens. So some of these, and I will tell you, obviously, with a little asterisk as I am talking about them, some of them are like crossovers, so they might have like more mature scenes, to put it simply. And others are adult books, but that are appropriate to read for teens. So yeah, so some of these are actually would be found like in the fiction adult section, in the general fiction section, or in the adult fantasy section, but they are appropriate for teens. And by appropriate for teens, I mean there is, especially for like 18 plus scenes, there is either a fade to black, or it is written in an appropriate way that is both, you know, not explicit for adults, but also appropriate to read for teens. And it could like easily go over their head, right? That kind of thing. And yeah, some of these do have 18 plus scenes, but they're written in a very, I guess, tasteful way, I could say. Like they're written in an appropriate way for teens. Okay? That's all I'm going to say on the subject. No, I don't think that banning books is the correct answer in this case, because banning books like that old, no, that's the last thing you need to ban. So without further ado, let's get into our recommendation. So yeah, so the first book I have, or first series I have, is the Ember and the Ashes Quartet. This is by Sabaa Tahir, and this is, in fact, this is one of those books that you might have not seen as a teen, but you probably heard about. This follows our main character, two main characters, Layla, I believe one of them is, and Elias, or Elias, I guess. And one is roped into the resistance to save her brother, who was essentially kidnapped by, you know, the ruling people, I guess, the soldiers that sort of followed the orders of the ruling class, essentially. And then we have Elias, who is in this military academy, so to speak, and he doesn't want to be. He has this grandiose plan put on him, this grandiose future put on him that he does not want. And so they end up crossing paths, and the adventure goes from there. This is a finished quartet. There is a sequel series. I believe it is a duology, if I'm not mistaken. The first book is called Air. I don't remember what the second book is called. If we have the title of the second book, I don't think we do. But yeah, I think in the case of Air, it is preferable that you, it is preferable that you read the Ember and the Ashes Quartet, because then I think you would fully understand the world building. I personally only read up to like halfway through book 3 of Ember and the Ashes. I do want to reread it. That is definitely a goal that I will hopefully achieve in this lifetime. But as far as Air goes, I think the recommendation is that it is preferable that you read the quartet first. Yeah, this is fantastic. This has two teens sort of falling in love, and very appropriate descriptions. Fantastic book. Then we have City of Brass, or the Davabad Trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, also known as Shannon Chakraborty. She has written The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi and the City of Brass, essentially, the Davabad Trilogy. The Davabad Trilogy is adult fantasy. It is adult Middle Eastern fantasy. And while Chakraborty isn't Middle Eastern herself, she is Muslim, which is a fun fact, I guess. She's probably like the only white author that Middle Easterners and people of color from those cultures will accept, as far as writing about our cultures and writing about Islam and everything, and how she sort of represents it. So he has the Davabad Trilogy, follows a couple of different characters, mainly Nari and Prince Ali. I think he's Prince Ali's. Nari finds out that she's actually not fully human. I think she's half jinn, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a minute. I do want to read the series all the way through. One of my aunts has been like begging me for years, ever since she like met me, before her and my uncle got married. She like has been begging me to read City of Brass. I will do it, Rabia. I will do it. I promise. I will do it. When? I don't know, but I will do a reading vlog just for you, Rabia. Okay? I will do a reading vlog just for you. I promise. So we follow Nari, who discovers it starts in Cairo in, I believe, the 1920s. This is when it's roughly giving the vibe, because the Franks are there. I think it's 1920s. And this one follows Nari as she discovers that she is not fully human and that she has to go to Dalabad, the city of brass. Pretty straightforward. And she finds out that she comes from this long line of healers, essentially. And yeah, there's violence brewing, as usual, you know? Fantastic book. I remember reading the first one and was kind of shocked by what happened. And Miss Chakraborty does not pull her punches. So that's about it. I don't remember how explicit some of the stuff is. I don't know. But I don't imagine it's particularly spicy. Let's just put it that way. Then we have Six of Crows. Six of Crows is YA. It is by Leigh Bardugo. It is one of my favorite duologies. It is a finished duology, so you can just read it and continue on. Although, how you will continue after the ending of Crooked Kingdom, I don't know. I do not have an answer for you, unfortunately, as to how you will be able to continue after the events of Crooked Kingdom, or even the events of Six of Crows. But anyways, Six of Crows follows 6 main characters. We have Kaz Brecker, Inej Goffa, Matthias Hevler, I keep forgetting what his last name is, Nina Zenik, Jesper Fahey, and Wylan Van Eck, although I read it as Willen, so like whatever. To each their own, right? Basically, we are in this fantasy version of, I believe it's supposed to be Amsterdam, because it's called Ketterdam. And Kaz Brecker is the leader of the Crows. It's a gang, essentially, right? And there's revenge, there's plot twists, there are characters and character work that makes you very attached to these characters. And Leigh Bardugo also doesn't pull her punches. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. Would I recommend Shadow and Bone? No, because I have gripes with Shadow and Bone. But Six of Crows, on the other hand, not so much, just because I don't come from that background. But that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other can of worms. We're not going to talk about it. Six of Crows, perfect for, teens, whatever age. I would recommend it being 13 plus, maybe even 14, 15 plus, but definitely teenage, perfectly appropriate. Next, we have Legendborn. Now, Legendborn is also YA. We follow Bree Matthews as she witnesses her mother's death, and she discovers her mother's death and she believes it's a freak accident and it's not just a simple car crash. And then she witnesses people battling demons, essentially, when she's really not supposed to. And so she goes to the school, she joins the society to figure out what actually led to her mother's death and how exactly her mother died. And from there, she discovers a whole lot of things. There's Legend of Arthur, Merlin, Knights of the Round Table, that kind of thing. But it's really well done. It's modernized, and wow, it touches on so many topics that are so difficult to really... it was really brilliantly done, and I would highly recommend. This is a planned quartet. Only 3 books are out at the moment. We have no info about the 4th book. I'm kind of mad about it. So Legendborn does have some spice, but again, very tasteful, very appropriately written for teens, I believe. And they're also pre-college, they're almost adults. So it's really relax. Then we have Give the Dark My Love. Now this is, I feel is an underrated, kind of unknown YA fantasy that I feel a lot of people would enjoy. We follow our main character, whose name I've forgotten because it's been a while since I read this, but I do have a review on it, which I will link down below. And so we follow our main character, who comes from this really small town on sort of I won't say the outskirts, but northern part of the kingdom, and there's a plague going around. So she's okay, I want to go study alchemy. She gets a scholarship to the school that teaches them alchemy, essentially, and she finds out she is really freaking good at it. She is really freaking good at alchemy, really good, right? And so people are dropping dead left, right, and center, and things are revealed. This one's really fantastic. I read this for a non-published dark academia blog because it didn't turn out the way I wanted, but I really enjoyed this book and I would recommend. As far as appropriateness, I don't remember if there was spice in it. But most of these have very little spice, or if they do, it's very vague, fade to black. So I'm just going to give you that. Next, we have the Old Kingdom series. Specifically, I want to recommend Sabriel, Lyriel, and Horson, which is the Old Kingdom trilogy, which is the main 3 books, right? So Sabriel can be read alone, I think, and Lyriel and Horson have to be read together. You can't just read Lyriel alone and then a portion on its own. You have to read those two together. However, Sabriel can be read alone. So Sabriel, wow, we're like 15 minutes in and I'm not even halfway through the list. Anyways, Sabriel is about our main character, Sabriel, who is a necromancer, except instead of putting people, raising the dead, she puts them back to sleep because they wreak havoc. She is in this school on the other side of the wall. So we have like the modern world, so to speak, and then you have the old kingdom in Celsior. And so she's in this school on the other side of the wall in the modern world. And the closer you get to the wall, the stronger you can use your magic. But the further you get, you can't really use your magic. So she gets a sort of SOS message from her father, who is the current person, the current sort of necromancer. And then they're the only ones who can use like necromancy and will not be like persecuted, because necromancy as a whole is illegal in the kingdom and Celsior. So Gabriel goes and leaves her school, and she has to go find her father, and she's also running away from the big bad guy. Lyriel is set a bit after the events of Sabriel, but I do think that you can go about not reading Sabriel necessarily, but it is best, I think, to read them in that order. Lyriel, as well as the sequel of Horson. Lyriel follows our main character, Lyriel, who is a daughter of the Claire, I believe it is, or Claire, I think it's Claire. And essentially, the Claire are also people with like sort of magical powers in a sense. And they see snippets of the future. And so she lives in this place and she's waiting for her sight to appear, to get the sight. But she's hitting 16 years old, hasn't appeared. She's hitting like 17 years old. You know, it hasn't appeared when it was supposed to appear, right? And then we find something out about her. And so she also goes on this sort of adventure to, you know, try to defeat the big bad, essentially. And in Lyriel, Sabriel has married and she has 2 kids. So, you know, like it's not that big of a deal. As far as romance goes, it's very minimal, I think. Yeah, it's there, but it's very minimal. Then we have Darker by 4 by June C.L. Tan. This is a fantastic YA Chinese mythology underworld book. We follow several characters. The 4th king of hell has disappeared, and havoc is being wreaked, essentially. We followed several different characters. The plot twists in this are insane. Also, June C.L. Tan has this very unique way of like writing found families in a way that you do not expect for it to become a found family. Like you truly have a ragtag team of people who just become this found family. I know that wasn't particularly explanatory, but it's been a minute since I read this, so I don't fully remember what it's about, and I don't have a copy, unfortunately. A Crane Among Wolves by June Her is Joseon-era Korea, and we follow our main girl, Isul, I believe her name is, as she travels into the capital of Joseon, Korea, essentially, and to rescue her sister from the tyrant king, whose name I've forgotten, but I think he's like the only tyrant king that Korea's ever had. So it's like, it was so bad that they like remember him as like the only, like, you can't get any worse than this person. Truly, you cannot get any worse. He like kidnapped girls, and it was truly awful. So please check trigger warnings. This one's fantastic because the romance is great, but it's like really the focus is her trying to survive as a girl and, you know, trying to really save her sister. Like, the problem is she needs to save her sister. She wants to save her sister, right? And she's a little pampered, so she finds out what it's like to really be a normal, regular sort of person, right? That doesn't have servants all around her. Then we have The Floating World by Axie. Oh, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm so sorry if I mispronounce it. This one I haven't finished yet. I was reading it, but I was really enjoying it. We follow Ren and we follow Suno. Suno lives in the underworld. Ren sort of lives above world. Ren has this white magic, so to speak, white light magic, and Suno is essentially like wrapped in. He's essentially like sucked in to this mission where a bunch of mercenaries are sent after Ren for her to be brought back to like the general of the underworld army or whatever, for reasons unknown. Clearly she's, you know, they want her for something sinister, probably. Yeah, this one was really good. I was really enjoying it. Really, really good, fun stuff. I think it's a retelling of like the Celestial Maidens, which is a story I am unfamiliar with, but warrants more research. Anyway, so that one's really fun. Again, I haven't read a lot of it. I think I was maybe like 30% through. I was really enjoying it though. I think Axie has a really, really unique style, and it's very fairy tale. Like, I really loved the writing style. Then we have A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and just generally that trilogy. This is murder YA. This is like a murder trilogy. It is young adult. It's very, I don't want to say, I mean, it's like a mystery sort of thing, like a murder mystery. So obviously there's going to be a couple descriptions. The plot twists are actually insane. Like, I cannot, like, when I tell you my jaw dropped on some of the reveals, I am so serious. I want to pick the brain of Holly Jackson, and I'm also kind of terrified of her. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Definitely recommend. Then we have The Hunger Games. Are we surprised? Like, are we surprised that I'm recommending The Hunger Games? Pivotal YA dystopian. I think it's fantastic. Out of all the dystopians, this is the dystopian, I think. I don't think anything else will really come close to reaching the level of genius that is The Hunger Games. Anyways, so yeah, Hunger Games, fantastic series, pivotal to the YA category, really, and to the dystopian genre. Anything else post Hunger Games is a Hunger Games wannabe, meaning they have a sort of society that gets split, or society with a certain quirk, so to speak, but really there's no deep societal commentary the way that Hunger Games has deep societal commentary. Then we have Awakens by Elise Kova. This is fantastic. I read this series in like 2 weeks. It is 5 books. It is truly great. We follow our main character, whose name I have once again forgotten. Oh my god, what is her name? It's a really interesting name because it sounds a little off, but turns out she's like the last airbender. Airwalker, I think that's what it's called. I don't remember what it was called, but it's like essentially Avatar: The Last Airbender. Okay? Except there's no avatar, it's just she's a super duper powerful airbender. So, and there's a prince who is fire, who has like fire powers stuff. And yeah, I'd highly recommend. Again, the smexy scenes are fairly appropriate in this one, I think. So, yeah, the romance really comes to the forefront later on in the book. So, but the first book is fantastic. Then we have Will of the Many by James Islington. So Will of the Many is adult. It's adult fiction and adult fantasy, and this one's really great because it's like this one main character who's an orphan who is secretly like this really smart dude. He gets adopted by this powerful dude in this Roman Republic-esque society, and he has to infiltrate a school, essentially, to figure out how the brother of his adopted father was murdered and like sort of the sinister stuff behind it. This one has a really cool magic system. I think it's and just like a really cool government system, like societal system. I think the best thing to do is go into this blind. And the second book comes out next month, which is called The Strength of the Few. So, yeah. Next, we have Silver in the Bone by Alexandra Bracken. This is Arthurian-esque. We don't have Arthur directly, but there are a lot of mentions. I don't remember the synopsis of this one. Not gonna lie, but I do remember I really enjoyed finishing it, and I need to reread it, and then I need to finish the series. Yeah. Then we have Strike the Zither. Strike the Zither is a reimagining of the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, I believe. This is by Joan He. My bad, not June. Joan He. If I had $1 every time I was traumatized by an author whose name starts with a J, I would have many dollars. Because apparently that all their names start with a J. So Strike the Zither was fantastic. It's a duology. Oh, I need to reread it and then finish it. This is, if you can tell, this is something that comes up a lot for me. Next we have Last of the Talents, Korean mythology, enemies to lovers. What more do you need? We follow our main character who essentially her whole family got except her little sister, and she was like part of like the Talon's gang essentially, and so she gets sent to steal something from like the Gumiho? Is it a Gumiho? From like a god essentially, and so he like whisks her away to like his realm, and there's like this sort of game of cat and mouse almost, and she has to stay there and like outwit him, essentially outsmart him. Outwit him. What am I saying? Outsmart him in order to, you know, keep her sister safe. Then we have Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I have a caveat for this. This is a crossover young adult and adult. So I think the Smexy scenes are a little bit more descriptive, if I'm not mistaken. And I guess the subject matter is maybe more adult, I'd say. But still fantastic book. We follow the daughter of the moon goddess Changi as she flares up in her power. She's not supposed to, like, they're not supposed to know that she's there. And so she runs away and she lands in like sort of the realm of the gods, I guess, and like the Celestial Kingdom, and she essentially has to be like undercover, and there's like a love triangle and all that. So yeah. Daughter of the Pirate King is a duology by Trisha Levenseller, I think it is. I only read the first book, but I thought it was so much fun. We follow our main character who essentially gets like kidnapped by like the enemy pirate person, and she has to like outsmart him as well. And they're looking for like this treasure map or something like that she supposedly has. It's been a minute since I read this, but I remember really having like a lot of fun with this. I think it reads really fast. Then we have These Violent Delights. This is also YA. This is by Chloe Gong. It is a Romeo and Juliet retelling set in 1920s Shanghai, where Juliet is from the Chinese gang and Romeo, or Roma, is from the Russian gang. So there is a creature in the dark. People are getting sick. There's like a plague. They don't know what's happening. And they have to team up. So that's kind of it. Enemies to lovers. Enemies to lovers to enemies. I think that's what I would categorize it as. I don't know. Then we have A Master of Jinn. A Master of Jinn is adult fantasy, historical, like alternative historical fiction. It is set in 1920s Cairo, again, just like City of Brass, if I'm not mistaken. And this Cairo has jinn and magical creatures. We follow our main character, who is the youngest and the only woman detective in the sort of agency, and a brotherhood has been just like straight up murdered. And there's rumors that this one magician dude is coming back from like the dead, essentially. Has risen from the dead, essentially. Then we have Six Crimson Cranes by Elizabeth Lim. This is a retelling of the story of the Wild Swans, which, fantastic book. I think it was so unique. Basically, she has, I believe, a magic flare-up, if I'm not mistaken, or she has like, I think it's a magic flare-up, and her stepmother curses her to never speak and have a bowl over her head, which is another Chinese myth. And if she speaks, her brothers will die. She turns her brothers into cranes. And I actually learned how to make cranes for the picture that I posted for this ARC review. Do I remember how to make cranes? No. Was that fun as hell, and was I pretty proud of myself? Yes. Then we have The Lunar Chronicles. This is another YA series. This is another iconic YA series. It is Cinderella, Rapunzel, Red Riding Hood, and Snow White retold in a sort of futuristic way. And there's a colony on the moon. Like, there's people on the moon. So, there's that. Yeah, fantastic series. I think it might have some controversies, if I'm not mistaken, but as far as I remember, I really enjoyed this series. So I can't really complain. But yeah, I don't know, beware of the controversies, I guess. I don't know. And then we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Super cozy fantasy, super great. Emily Wilde is a 30-something-year-old professor of dryadology. And in the first book, she goes to this like Scandinavian coded town. Her academic rival arrives, and shenanigans ensue because she has to study the Fae, and he is in her way. So I think the author really nailed like the winter aspect of that book. So yeah, I say that as a Canadian. The author is also Canadian. Next, we have Mistborn, which is Brandon Sanderson. Sorry, I've got like hair all over me. It is Brandon Sanderson's YA trilogy, and I think his magic systems are so freaking cool. This one follows our main girl, Vin, I think it is, if I'm not mistaken. Whoops. We follow our main character, Vin. Sorry, malfunction here. Follow our main character, Vin, who finds out she's a Mistborn, which is essentially someone who can control all the metals. Like, she has powers connected to the metals. The metals give her powers. If you eat a metal, you sort of burn it inside, and then you have, like, super cool vision, or, like, you can kind of fly and stuff like that. So stuff ensues from there. There's, like, a heist in the first book, and it kind of goes from there. They're overthrowing the old regime, essentially. Then we have Ranger's Apprentice. And this is a book that I've only read the first one of, but I really liked it. And honestly, the thing that engrossed me about this book was the fact that there was a character on the front with a bow and arrow. I don't remember what this one is about. I think everyone goes as, like, apprentices, and it's sort of like the job that you do. And then one of the kids, probably the seventh son of the seventh son or something like that, some special guy, the ranger comes, is like the ranger, and he's like, okay, you're gonna be my apprentice. Or maybe it's every seventh son, I don't remember. But you're gonna be my apprentice, and then it goes from there. I've only read the first book, but I remember really enjoying it. So, and then we have, last but not least, we have The Maze Runner by James Dashner. The Maze Runner is one of the most iconic YA dystopians. I know I said that, like, anything post-Hunger Games is like a ripoff, but I think this is one of those genuinely solid ones. We live on an Earth where it is ravaged by solar flares. Like, I imagine the atmosphere is almost gone, to the point where, like, solar flares have, like, completely ravaged the land. And there's this disease that people contract, so to speak, and they die because of solar flares. So, will that help in any sense? Wow, I think that helps a little bit. Although it does give it too much of a shadow, which I do not like, but we're gonna have to deal with that. So yeah, so that is it for this video. I know it's a bit of a mess, but I hope you enjoyed regardless. And like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Let me know your thoughts down below. Follow me on all the socials. All the books will be down below, as well as maybe links to buy them if you're interested. And I will see you in the next one. And as always, happy reading.